Okay, hello everyone. My name is Piotr Żyła. I am a lead animator in Platish Image. I started to animate about 10 years ago, starting from computer games. Then I animated tons of commercials, and currently at Platish I'm making visual effects for movies and for game cinematics. So let's say that not directly, but I'm in a little bit in game industry. So today I'd like to share with you my knowledge about 12 principles of animation created by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. Those guys were the leading animators in Disney. They created all the amazing cartoons we all know. And they announced in 1981 in their book Illusion of Life Disney Animation those 12 principles. So these are all of them. Don't worry, I will focus just on those the most important. And question why 12 principles of animation? Because animation is great. I'd like to say something new about this. And why this cartoony style of animation on digital dragons, something that is strictly connected with mocap, with not cartoony animation in most cases, because those principles have a lot to do with not cartoony animation. We can use them to make a good realistic animation, and even in some cases, some those points helps to make good tweaks on mocap. So let's get started. The principle number 1 is squash and stretch. That tells that animated object gets longer or flattened depending on its speed, consistency, and weight. Non-good animation, actually good animation must have a squash and stretch. Like, sorry, I have to show it in quick time because frame by frame I can show you better what is going on. So here is the example on the right. Of course, we have very nice cartoony jump of the box. On the left, there is non-deformation, and that's why both boxes have the same trajectory, the same speed, but thanks to those deformations, we have different feeling of consistency of this object. So on the left, it's more like made of wood, and on the right, it's like a rubber. So the same similar things here, and hand-drawn animation. We have the same speed, but the circle on the left is more like a water balloon. On the right is more like a rock. So what is the most important during those squash and stretch is to maintain volume of our deformed object. So whenever we have a squash, the object becomes longer. If you make it stretched, it should be narrower. Simple and obvious, I think. So the same I tried to maintain in this animation. So let's get for another example where the squash is the very commonly used is during blinks. We have a nice doggy, nice cartoon animation, and during this, in this moment where the eyes are closed, is in cartoon, it's very nice to add this maximal squash of the head. The animation looks much better, much nicer, much more cartoony thanks to this. Okay. And the last example, I'd like to show you that generally squashing, stretching are added during fast transition between poses, but of course it's allowed to show it for a longer time, like this sneaky animation, and for about 7 frames, I stretch this leg with this step, and it's completely allowed, and this gives this cartoony effect. Okay, so that's all for this. Anticipation, this is very important. Whenever you want to put an energy into something, first you have to accumulate this energy. I think it's quite obvious. It comes from the physics. Whenever, of course, example here, it will explain the best. Simple jump of the box again. On the left, we have anticipation. On the right, we don't have it. Much better is on the left because it's more convincing. It's more physically correct, even if we have those cartoony deformations. So this works exactly the same like, let's say, example on me. If I would like to jump with both hands, first I have to lower my hips and then make a jump. The same mechanics works even on those abstract objects. So keep in mind to think this way. And one more obvious example, hitting a ball. So the stronger effect of putting an energy into something, it may be a hit, it may be I don't know, maybe a finisher in computer games with the giant axe. The bigger anticipation, the stronger hit. So this works everywhere, and we shouldn't forget about this. And this really helps in keyframe animation. We can use it even in, we can enhance motion capture this way. Okay, next one, staging. Staging is a proper presentation of all characters and objects within frame to make everything clear and readable for the audience. I would use this principle for example, cutscenes in computer games. Staging tells that animator is kind of a little director of each of its own shot, because animator must decide where the audience should look at in a certain time. So if we have many actions, we shouldn't show all those actions at the same time. They should be separated with some time, so pause. So this will make this more readable and everything will be more tidy. I like to show you an example of bad, incorrect staging, which is simple animation here. We have two actions that are happening at the same time, where this guy from the front is looking, at the same time the other guy comes to the scene, and again when the character from the front is looking back, there is a reaction at the same time. And one more thing here is that the character from the back is it's not good position in the case of framing, in the case of composition of this frame. It should be more to the left, because now we have a lot of empty space on the left. Let's make some tweaks and add a slightly pause between actions of both characters. So now it's much more tidy and we don't have everything at the same time. As well, I put the character from the back more to the left, and this is a hint with positioning your characters within frame, is that to create a grid, when you split your screen, your frame into 3 rows and 3 columns, we have those lines, and in the cross section of those lines we have the strongest point in the frame. So here we should put our action. Okay, then staging. One more thing about staging is the posing of the character. To make everything clear and nice, I made a pose of typing on a cell phone or some device. Let's say that this pose is okay. I marked this object on red, so it's more visible, but this pose could be better. Let's make this modification. And in the case of staging, this is better pose for staging, because we see more in the silhouette. It's much more visible at the first look. And if we take a look at those 2 poses in silhouette mode, we can see that on the first pose, we covered our device. On the left, we see what is going on. So it's important to enhance our clearance this way. 4. Straight, ahead, and pose to pose. This describes 2 methods depending on order of frames during creation of animation. I think this is one of the most important in key animation, in 3D animation. Straight ahead refers more to the 2D drawers. I will explain it in a moment. More important now for us is pose to pose. This method actually is very commonly used during animation, during making key frame animation in movies and computer games. And to explain it, I will show you the final effect of my animation of fighting 2 superheroes, and this is how it looks at the end. And I approach this using this method, pose to pose. So how did I start it? I like to say that it took me about 2 nights to make it by making good poses, not too much at the beginning, but to construct a good basement for this animation. So first, let's focus just on one character, because I want to show the poses at once, at one picture. I started from this pose, then I added in the middle of the animation the highest point of the jump, and then at the end of the animation the landing pose. So this gives me the first glimpse of how long is the jump, how high is the jump, and where can I put the action. So I was happy with this one. I then added so-called in-betweens. In-betweens, obvious that are poses between those main frames. So this I try to make them as natural as possible. I couldn't jump so high with this flip, so it was hard to record any references. And at this moment, when I added another character, I achieved this so-called blocking stage of animation. There are not so many poses. At this stage, I am very easy to make tweaks in this animation. I can if I decide, oh, the Hulk is too big, I have to make the jump earlier or make a jump longer or hit the Hulk. The first version of this animation was that I hit this Hulk with the second hand. So I didn't like it and I changed. I removed just 3 or 4 poses, and in half an hour I changed the animation. So the same way we would make an animation for computer games if we wouldn't have any mockups. And believe me, at the beginning I started from the splines. At the beginning of making my animation, it was okay, but this method, I wouldn't say that it's longer, but it's more precise and you have less problems later. So if director will see it, will approve it, I can move on by adding another poses and another poses and so on, making my keyframes denser and denser and so on. At the end, I have the animation I showed you and at the beginning. So this is a very good method of post-to-post animation. Let's go back to straight ahead. As I said, I made this fire animation in this straight ahead pose, and that means that we make a frame by frame and a picture. So this method works the best in 2D for animating objects that are hard to predict what's the next shape in the next frame. So those shapes are hard to make a pose of the fire in the first frame, then in the middle, and find the pose in between. No way. You have to figure something out, and this is the way. Okay. This was follow through and overlapping action. This is a technique of having different body parts that follows or are dragged by other objects. If we have an animation in 3D of a more complex object with, for example, a long coat or a big head, it's always good to hide those objects, forget it at the beginning of the animation, and animate just the main body. The other objects at this stage are irrelevant. So when we are happy from the main action, we can go to animate those secondary objects because they follow the main body. Just like here, it speeds up a lot. First I focused on the ball, then I unhide the tail and make an overlap of the tail. Very fast, very easy, very nice, and not. It's a bad way to animate everything at the same time. First we have to close our main body and then the secondary parts. And one more example, that the amount of overlapping, this dragging, affects the feeling of mass of the object. We have 4 the same disks and different overlapping of this 3-joint tail. So again, the amount of dragging is affects the weight of this object. Okay, next one. This is very important for animation in computer games or mockups or in keyframe. Slow in, slow out. Objects must non-linearly gain or lose speed in certain amount of time. Especially beginner animators have problem to create a weight of the object because they animate everything very linearly. And in nature, to get a weight, we have to speed up an object, give him acceleration, and then slow it down if we have animation with slowing down. So I will start to show you a ball without any slowing in, slowing out, and we have Pong from the 80s, or I don't know when was released this game, but it's completely unacceptable in cartoon. The diagram here on the upper right corner shows the y-axis, so from the up to down, and it's linear and it's bad. Everything generally in animation that it's linear, it's bad, it's robotic and not natural. So let's make some easy tweaks to show you how easy we can make a proper bouncing. Simple, slowing in at the beginning, then speeding up, jump, fast, and slowing out. We have much more convincing animation. Let's make this point even narrower. So this gives us more cartoony effect, just like here. So we have this bang, very fast, and it looks much nicer and cartoony. So, and this important example of pointing, I think it is visible. On the left, I did the slowing in, slowing out very, very slightly. It's I marked on this curve with frames where are the position of the wrist on the left, and it's slightly slows down at the end of the animation, but still it's not enough. That's why it gives a linear, robotic, non-natural effect. On the right, we have speeding out, and that's why this gives us a nice strong movement, much more. Actually, we created a mass of this hand. So keep in mind that this is nature, this is how nature works, and even if you would measure like this a motion capture, I try it many times, we have almost never a linear distribution of the frames. There are always slowing in, slowing out. So I learned a lot from analyzing this motion capture, everything, hips, hands, pointing, steps, everything this goes non-linearly, and it is good to know from the motion capture. This helps a lot. Okay. Another ultra important things, arcs. Trajectory of animated objects, especially its tips, shouldn't not be linear. That means that everywhere where we have linear movement, we have a feeling that it's a robotic animation. So in case we can animate a robot, and it will be all right, but generally if we don't animate any robots, we want to achieve a natural animation, we should look at trajectories if we have nice arcs, especially if the more cartoony, the more arcs we have. So let's go for a moment for this box animation. So not only the timing, not only the squash and stretch, but everywhere we have arcs. We have trajectory of this bouncing. It's with the arc shape, and the sides of this box is curvy. Everywhere arcs. Cartoon loves arcs. Okay. Doggy animation. the same from the previous example. I measured here the tip of the nose. So to make everything smooth and nice, I had to keep this tip of the nose to move along arcs, and then it goes to this round shape. So try to looking S shapes, U shapes, nines, eights. Then this should this is how should look your trajectories. If there is a straight line, this is bad. This is not cartoony, and there is a mistake. So let's make a robotic cartoon, robotic animation. So as I said, I found a robot rig, so I decided to make this animation. It's total snappy, total unorganic, but for robot it's fine. But if we would put this animation of dog or organic human character, it wouldn't work. And this is as well for beginner animators. They make everything very snappy and linear. We should definitely avoid. And most CG, every CG program has easy tools to measure the trajectories of the objects. The most important are the head, the hips. I think the hips the most important, then head and the legs, and maybe the wrists as well. But I didn't want to show it because it would be messy. But you see the picture. So tweaks. Let's make again some tweaks. Let's make our animation more organic, and we have something like this. So, and the end up, we have this nice spiral. Hips are more curvy, the step as well. This is a little bit exaggerated animation, but I wanted to show that curves makes difference. Okay, and one more example. Hitting with an orc. Again, the more heavier object, the more curvy trajectory should be. So if I would make a mistake and move the in one frame or two frames some movement to the top or something, it would get us the feeling that object gets invisible force. So generally measure the tips of the object and it will tell you a lot. Example, again, we have speeding up, slowing in, slowing out. It is very visible here by distribution of those dots. By the way, secondary action. This tells about some additional gestures that supports the main action, making it more interesting. I like it because when you finish your animation, you think that everything is fine. You can start to think what could we add to this animation to make it more interesting. And at the very top, we have just the animation of chest, head, and right hand. Then I decided to add some movement on legs. And on the very bottom, I added as well a hand animation. So these are just supporting elements that made this animation more interesting, more rich. So remember not to exaggerate those animations because you may break your main action. 9 is timing, very important. I think every beginning animator, including me, has a problem with this one, especially at the beginning. Perception of animation is greatly affected by number of frames between main poses. What does it mean? when I started to animate, all my animations were very slowly. I thought that it is great. I spent a lot of hours. I was animating. Then next day I'm looking at it and I say, what the? It's like a slow motion. So good method to fix it is to play animation next to your animation. Place a cartoon movie or a movie or anything to compare your animation and the proper timing. So my problem was that I put it too many frames between my main poses. So here I like to show how big difference makes even 3 frames between those main actions. So here I created 2 main poses, which is anticipation pose, I explained before, and then the most straight position after hitting. 0 frames on the upper left corner, then I added 1 frame, so my strength of the hit dropped. Then another 2 frames, even less powerful, and 3 frames, it's like no effort at all. So this makes, sometimes it's good to just take your animation and remove keys from the in-betweens and just shrink the animation to give a bigger strength. Hitting an axe, finisher, I don't know anything for the computer games. I did quite a lot of loops for computer games, so it was always good to exaggerate the animation like this. Okay, and about exaggeration, I like it the most. We can play a little bit with our animation. So this tells that each pose, action, or expression can be moved to next level to amplify effect. So even if we have a motion capture on the animation layer, we can, I don't know, extend the hit of somebody, extend the jump before hitting something anywhere, because usually it may be a non-flexible actor on the mockup, and this can help us to make the animation stronger in computer games. In animation, let's start from pose. I like to show you this pose. This guy is happy because he won €1. But let's think, how would he behave that if he won €2? A little bit more. I move the hips a little bit front, leg, head more to the back, a little bit higher legs, hands. Then €5, even more happier, and €50 on the knees. That was my idea, and and it is very nice to experiment and push our poses to next level. Car exaggeration. Simple. I started from a little bit anticipation on the very top. Then I added some movement on the upper body of the car, and on the very bottom, it's much more cartoony. I started to bend all the front of the car, front body, and it became much more cartoony. It's exaggerated completely. And with character animation, not this one, hitting the cylinder. Again, I started from the animation from the top. Then I decided to maybe make a little bit faster the hitting, maybe end with more wider legs. And then on the very bottom, I made a totally cartoony out of physics a little bit. It's more like Tom and Jerry, I think, this kind of style of cartoony animation. So this is the gradation of the same animation, but with different exaggeration. Okay, then. Next two refers more for the 2D drawers. Solid drawing tells that objects should be drawn in three-dimensional style to make feeling they have mass, volume, and balance. So in Disney, they told to animators to, for example, avoid straight lines, not only in animation, in trajectories of the objects, but as well in the general design of the character. So everywhere they are looking for some curvy lines, even on legs, head, and everywhere. Perspective. Disney started to animate it in 3D first, I think. They couldn't animate, make straight lines. Again, they were looking for perspective. They were making a grid in 3D with perspective to distinguish better if character is far away or close. And again, all the shapes are based on three-dimensional objects, not a flat one. So the character is not based on circles, on rectangles, rather on spheres, on boxes, cubes, I mean, and cylinders. Okay, and for 3D animators, this principle tells to avoid so-called twinning, which means that we shouldn't pose our characters symmetrically, because this standing is boring. Much better is do something like this, a contrapose. So, yeah, a contrapose. And again, we should looking for balance. So our poses should be, we should feel in our poses that character has a balance. It won't fall out or front or on any side. Yes, and another unsymmetric pose. It's much more nicer and less boring. Symmetrical, straight lines, everything this boring, we should avoid this. And last one, appeal. This refers more for the general design of the character. It's anything that a person likes to see, a quality of charm, pleasing design, simplicity, and magnetism. Design of character should reflect its personality. So it doesn't mean that every character should be nice, should be cute, and so on, like Bambi. No, it refers as well to the bad characters, like Hades from Hercules. It's based on sharp shapes, so even in silhouette, it's have its own appealing, evil appealing. And this I took from the internet. These are silhouettes of the cartoons we know. And I think this is the best way to describe appealing. I'm not a good in 2D, so I would say that every this character have its appeal. Okay, so that's all. Any questions?